be a way to look at it. That's not the point that I was making, but that might be a way to look at it. I mean, no, it's philosophy class, you know. It's interpretive. Hey, there's some things I'll tell you you're wrong if you say, you know, so and so came before so and so. You know, there are certain things historically that are what they are. Some people said this and others didn't. You know, on the exam there are objective things. Interpreting some of this, the way that you know they're thinking about it is, you know, unless you read the writings, you can't. It's difficult to, you know, you don't want to assume a whole lot. But even reading their original writings, the translations there, I should say, there's still a lot of interpretation that can be made. But basically, you know, this is, I think, a good way to understand Plato. And the reason I bring this up at this point in class is because it is an epistemological issue. It's how do you know ultimate reality? What is the most real thing? And if that is in the realm of ideas, and see, so for Plato, who should be in charge in a society? You know, he has you know, these things he writes about a society, you know, the perfect society, what, you know, kind of what it would look like. You know, you'd have soldiers and this and that and the other. But who would be in charge? Would it be the politicians that you voted for? Or would it be the philosophers who know the forms? Right? Because that's his idea that when you're philosophizing or doing philosophy, whatever you want to call it, you should be acquainting yourself, you should be coming to know these forms more intimately, so to speak. Know these ideas, know this realm of ideas. And by doing that, then obviously you're going to be able to understand what justice, for example, should look like. Because if we all sat down at some point, at one breaking point or another, if we sat down and we all hammered out what justice is, we could all say, what? We'll take some just basic definitions of justice. What does justice mean to you? Over here on this. What does justice mean? I mean, give us a definition of it. Just something simple.
Doing what's right.
Okay. And if you don't?
Consequences occur.
Okay, good. Consequences. Do what's right. Okay. And then that what's right becomes a defining point, doesn't it? What you say is right, I might say, no, I don't think that we should, you know, the we should thing comes up. When we're making laws, your opinion, you know, I think that they should make it 25-mile-an-hour speed limit out here. And I say, no, that's just too slow, you're creeping. I mean, if you're going to make a law, it needs to be enforceable. Let's make it 35. You know? I think it should be 35. Well, we disagree, you know. Well, okay, then we may disagree. I got a parking ticket recently. Oh, man, that was just fantastic. 4 hours is all you could put in the meter, and I had to send off $10 for being probably 30 to maybe 50 cents. I don't even think it's probably like 30 cents on time-wise that I caught, you know, went out there and caught that I missed it. And I knew it. I was like, oh, no, because I was planning to leave earlier and got caught up in business. I said, oh, man. So I went out there. Sure enough, they already smacked me with a ticket. And they were Johnny on the spot with that. Gosh, $10 for a, you know, 30 to 50 cent error. So is that just? You know, some no, that's not. You know, the punishment should fit the crime. But see, they don't know exactly how far I could be. I could be sitting there for, you know, an hour past or something. But you know, we have that concept of right and wrong, and if you don't do right in our society, then there should be some sort of consequence that society imposes upon you. You try to go past 4 hours downtown Hot Springs on that little meter, and we're going to stick it to you, guy. $10. It's going to cost you. Golly, you know. So you know, that's what our society or our city has decided is a just consequence, penalty, punishment, whatever you want to call it. How to make right the wrong that I did. But when we think, you know, get into more serious matters like capital punishment, for example, some people are absolutely diametrically opposed to the idea of putting someone to death, even for putting someone else, you know, for murder or anything else, whatever. We could talk about, you know, where does the punishment fit the crime, or do two wrongs make a right, so on and so forth. We will hammer that stuff out probably here at some point. But Plato's idea of justice, he realizes, that you and I are, when we sit down and try to define exactly what that looks like, we're just not going to agree on everything. And in his writings, that comes out with Socrates talking to people. They realize that their own definition, they end up tripping themselves. And that's kind of what's great about his writings, is that it's kind of comical the way Socrates trips people up. And you'll get an opportunity to read some of that. I've got that.
Is that
one of your excerpt in page 9. It goes 9 through 12. I want you to read that. It's going to be on the exam. And I want you to understand what's going on there. I'm not going to explain this to you. I want you to figure it out. This is where you're going to read it and you're going to interpret and you're going to hammer out what is going on in that passage. What's actually happening. I'll give you a clue to this, okay? If you don't just read that excerpt, if you read what the book says about it, it tells you what's going on. It breaks it down for you. So this is a little bit extra here outside of just the PowerPoint. Down here it says,
what page is it on?
9. The 9th bullet down. Yeah, page 9 is where the excerpt begins. It's where Plato and Thrasymachus are hashing it out verbally. Plato, I should say, Socrates and Thrasymachus. But it's an excerpt from Plato's Republic, a very, very famous writing. And this will give you a good hands-on, first-hand kind of original reading experience. Plato he uses stories. All right? He uses stories. Yeah. I'm ignorant. I'm the most ignorant of all men thing. And that's sort of becomes a trap for Socrates. His humility is very ironic in there. And that's the way Plato, puts him.
I really like the second and third parties on that too.
But Aristotle kind of switches gears. All right, Aristotle's different. Aristotle's philosophy. Aristotle, first of all, I'll throw it out there just so you have it in your mind. We're going to formally talk about him as a person later. But he was the son of a physician. All right, he was a doctor's kid. So, grew up with a silver spoon in his mouth. Right? Aristocracy, that kind of thing. And Aristotle was just a much more empirically oriented guy. And although we don't formally call, I don't necessarily say, okay, Plato is defined as